All right, Gabe Goche back here with the Southern Utah Hockey Report. As I mentioned before, I got my co-host Tommy Rupp. We're here to deliver more news, more updates, and just talk hockey. We're also going to provide a little bit of insight, talk about the rules of the sport because we'll get into that a little bit more. But just want to cover what we're going to talk about here in the show. Is we're going to obviously go through Red Rock ball hockey, talk about the standings, the stats, cover Utah Hockey Club and Vegas, because obviously with Utah being the newest NHL team and Vegas in proximity. Also the Iron County Yeti, so the U20 team up in Enoch, and then we're going to finish off with the rules of the game. We're going to cover icing and offsides. So first with the Red Rock ball hockey, give us a little update, standings, and future schedule. Tommy Rupp.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, thanks again, guys, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Red Rock Ball Hockey, we're actually transitioning into our first round of playoffs this week. It's a little bit tougher with the Halloween holiday upon us, so it's going to be split up into 2 different weeks this season. So we have our first playoff matchup on Tuesday, and I have all those teams here for you. It looks like in the Chipmunks division, it's going to be the Cubs and the Flying V, and the Galaxy and the Crowns as well. In the Penguins division, you're going to have the Aliens and the Quack Attack and the Southpaws and the Counts. And then hopping over to the Beavers division, it's going to be the Knuckle Ducks and the Solar Bears and the Novas and Jesters. And finally, in the Cadets division, which is our oldest for the kids, it's going to be the Goldbirds and the Monarchs, the Cosmos and the Maulers. And then just to kind of go over some of our top point producers in those leagues, just want to highlight a few of those individuals here. In the Chipmunks division, it's Luke McGarry and Atlas Rupp that's leading right now. In the Penguins division, it's Sydney Henwood. So shout out to the Henwoods. Also have Corey Henwood as the founder there. So that's his daughter. So that's really exciting to see. And then you've got Huxley Dutson as well. He's really taken the next step as he's developed. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then in the Beavers division, you have Caden Howard and Alexi Shipman. And finally, in the Cadets, it's Tate Leonis and Ryder Levitt. So just some of those leading point producers there. Like I said, it's pretty cool to see the growth over the seasons. Some of these kids come in not even knowing how to hold a hockey stick, and then before you know it, they're at the top of the leaderboard. So that lets us know that we're at least doing something right here. So looking forward to that. A couple final things here on Red Rock Ball Hockey. I believe there's only 10 days left to donate for the fundraising campaign through SNAP.
Yep.
We've had a lot of great momentum with that this year, so we cannot thank everyone who's donated. If you do know somebody who does want to donate, obviously it's a tax write-off, everything like that, and those go right directly back to Red Rock Ball Hockey to help protect some of our investments. Things like expanding the rinks, building new rinks, the roofs to go over them. Obviously, we live in a desert climate, so protecting, the playing surfaces and everything like that, that's a top priority. I believe we just crested $6,000 of our $20,000 goal.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
And honestly, I'm blown away. Can't thank you enough for helping set that up and coordinating that. It's been something that we've had a difficult time getting fundraising money for whatever it is, and obviously Snap's algorithm to things and protecting people's information, but still giving them platforms that makes the donations easy, makes them super trackable. I know even my mom was calling me the other day because she was trying to track how much Atlas had received, know, and everything like that. So
little competitions.
Yeah, it's good. And obviously it's something that works. And those are the companies that are really helping continue to build hockey here in Utah. And we can't thank them enough for their partnership and everything like that. So pretty much rounds out Red Rock Ball Hockey.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing, and just thank you for the recap there. But as you mentioned with the fundraising and just really something new, and I think the biggest thing is now we're starting to embrace that community,
right?
And that's where a lot of these people are starting, and family members are starting to see the why as to why Red Rock Ball Hockey was formed, and why do we keep doing this, and why does Corey and his family keep volunteering their time, and you and your wife volunteering time. Like those are the things that create that program, but create that community as well too. And so the funds are going to improve like you said, a rink, the environment, the equipment,
exactly.
to give more kids and even adults just more opportunities to play the game of hockey. So No, it's been awesome, and just for you, being involved in so many years with hockey for ice hockey,
Mhm.
what's been one thing that's really stood out about ball hockey that has really differed from ice?
Um, Honestly, the biggest thing, and it's a point that I keep on coming back to when I try to explain it to people, because it is a newer concept. Like even I didn't know about ball hockey till I moved down here and there wasn't any ice. But let's be honest. I mean, hockey is very financially expensive in a lot of different like avenues. But the vehicle that kind of helps hedge against that and helps grow the sport is something is that is as available as ball hockey. Just it's limited equipment. Again, kids aren't on skates,
Hmm.
so they can learn the fundamentals of using the stick, shooting, stick handling, but everyone knows how to run. So not only have we seen a growth in the amount of people that we've captured because of that they don't have the intimidation factor as far as costs are concerned, but
Yeah.
then also it kind of allows someone who is a fan of hockey to translate that to an actual player. There's a lot of people, sometimes they have a harder time skating, or they don't want to flip the bill for, I know it's expensive to outfit a kid these days and stuff like that. Really, the biggest factor I've seen is it's just a vehicle to get more kids into hockey. Because more kids get into hockey, all of a
Yeah.
sudden the parents start asking, "Oh, well, hey, is there an adult league? Can we play in that?"
Yeah.
And it really helps round out our hockey community as a whole, instead of it being, oh, I'm ice or I'm roller or I'm, ball hockey. It's like
Right.
they're all going to lead into each other. The more ball hockey programs you have, naturally along the way, you're going to have more roller hockey because the surface is the same. Again, less equipment, stuff like that. And then the more people that get into roller hockey, obviously that's going to transition into ice hockey. And so it's just a nice progression
Yeah.
for anyone to get into. Hockey's for everyone. And I think we say that quite a bit in our sport, which I love.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
this is just another way to get hockey out there for everyone. So
Yeah, and
great.
it's a perfect transition too, especially as we talk about the growth of hockey and with Utah Hockey Club being a newer team to the NHL, but also the highest level now to the state of Utah,
Right.
which is amazing because the growth is just going to explode from there. And Utah Hockey Club has now come up with their Grow the Game initiative
Right.
to start with ball hockey. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have some connections there as we go
Absolutely.
forward. But with the Utah Hockey Club, they're getting off to a real good start. Um, and I was on the fan the other day, and I just had the word good. It was a good start for them to come out of the gates winning at home. But it was also good that they had those losses at home because it now grounds them as a team. I feel it also grounds the fan base too. That
Right.
it's not going to be a fairy tale. It's not going to be that storybook, but it's going to be a good season. That this is a young team. It's also it's a very competitive team, a very
Right.
creative team, and just from a standing standpoint, they're looking at fifth in the Central Division. They're sitting at 9 points as a team right now. And Tommy, what have you seen from Utah Hockey Club, and just talk about a couple players that really highlight you.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, love the start. It's always cool, especially when you're going into a new environment, like a new city like Salt Lake. It helps the fan base if you win, obviously, and we've seen that with our expansion programs in the NHL, like the Kraken and obviously the Vegas Golden Knights. But also, what I think is really a reaffirmation is this is kind of what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fire for the team there is there. I think they've got a lot of depth throughout their roster. But I do think you're going to see more of this throughout as the season progresses, just because they're trying to find their identity so much. And you think about it, like, yes, they're hockey players on the ice, but these are also husbands, fathers, everything. People's lives get turned upside down when you have, or you've been told that you were going to a new city. And obviously we know the situation with Arizona. It probably wasn't the most favorable, not only for the team, but
It's
for the
tough.
NHL and everything like that. And I think what Utah's done a really good job of is bridging the gap for those players. I was just listening to Ryan Smith, who's the owner of the Utah Hockey Club, and his most important thing was focusing on the experience.
Mm-hmm.
What does the experience look like? And it's not just experience on the ice. It's not the experience in the locker room. It is like, okay, we're relocating, 30 families here. what does that experience look like? How's the mom or the wife going to handle that? How can we make this as smooth as a transition as possible? Well, through all of that, you've got to find an identity as a team, and the off-ice stuff obviously does affect a certain amount of the on-ice stuff as far as comfort goes, and a lot of these players have individual situations that are all different. I think what we've done a really good job at is creating the winning culture. Like we're willing to spend money to win. We're willing to create the experiences necessary to treat these individuals like pros, because that's how they deserve to be treated, especially coming from the Arizona market. But you're going to deal with a lot of adversity too. I think they're dealing with adversity right now. Obviously, you come out with the hot start. You beat a lot of top-end teams. Yeah. Now we've dropped the last 3. I think our coach, Alex Torigny, is going to get the message across that it's like, it's time to go. It's time to dig in here. You're not going to win all 82 games in 1 week. Essentially, you got to take small pieces out there, and I think it just starts with the leadership. I'm really impressed with where Clayton Keller has kind of taken it to that next level now that he's got the C. He's obviously leading in points, and then,
he's got nine points on the season right now. He's also tied in goals with Dylan Gunther, which is great. And like you talked about too, is just the mentality, the mindset, and the adjustments. Like a lot of people don't realize is they had to change their lives in 6 months,
exactly,
like, dramatically.
Right.
And as a player, it plays a tremendous role on your production and as your output on the ice, and that support. So you're spot on with just the embracement of the community that Utah has done for these players, to welcome them to the city, to let them know that they have a huge fan base, and it shows too with what they've been doing. But with Captain Clayton leading the way, it's always a tongue twister. Talk about some other players that stand out for you.
Well, obviously, Utah is full of a lot of promising prospects. A lot of those, obviously, Logan Cooley. He's at the top of the point production. I believe he's in second just to Clayton Keller. That's a kid, I believe he just had his 21st birthday. So, I mean, to be doing that, as a 21-year-old, it's pretty impressive. Obviously, you touched on Dylan Gunther there. We just signed him to a big-time extension, 8 years times, I believe it was $8.25 million.
Yeah.
You don't typically see those contracts thrown out there for a guy like Gunther who's played that limited amount of games, but clearly, as you've heard Clayton Keller talk about his game, as you've heard Bill Armstrong, the general manager, talk about his game, we see some long-term value in a person like that. And if they are a cornerstone of your organization, their price is only going to go up. Yeah. So the fact that we recognize that, we're going to put the onus on the team, put the onus on the general manager, and obviously the player to perform at that level. And I think he's met all those expectations. One more person I want to highlight on, a pretty cool story on social media, is Maverick Lamoureux.
Yeah.
He got the call up, which is
very
sweet
cool
to see. And the cool thing that I think Utah Hockey Club did is they flew his parents up there to surprise him at the arena once he got the call up, knowing that he was going to play in his first NHL game. To watch a player see his mom and dad there that have probably spent countless nights, early mornings, lots of finances towards his dreams and what he's working towards and everything like that, to see the look on Maverick's face when he saw his parents surprise him, you could tell he was overcome with emotion. Hockey players are very rarely going to pat themselves on the back. It's very much a we sport and not an I sport, which I really love about it. I think that's what makes it cool. But just to see his emotion on his face, like, you could kind of tell that it's like, okay, I made it. Like, all those late nights, all the early mornings, like, now it's your turn as parents to sit back and relax, and and then he gets to go have some fun, which is really cool.
It is really cool to see that experience. For every player to get called up. I got to experience it, which is awesome. And but what they did with his parents, like, that's a neat story. And being able to play in the NHL is amazing, but to play for a new franchise and have those opportunities is amazing. To see the young kids growing up and being able to be that next generation, which is hopefully starting down here in St. George. And we got our neighbors to the south too, which is the Vegas Hockey Club, Vegas Golden Knights. But a lot of things too with Vegas, Tommy, especially with coming out of the gate strong. They're leading their Pacific Division in 13 points. Stone looks like he's leading the team in points, 17. So a lot of just another magical things coming from Vegas, and a couple of years winning the Cup.
Right.
So talk about what you've seen from Vegas, who stood out for you, and we'll just talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like we were talking about with the Utah Hockey Club trying to find an identity. Vegas is an organization that has not only found an identity, but established that identity throughout the NHL. Everyone knows if you're playing Vegas, it's never going to be an easy night. Obviously, you had the Utah Hockey Club coming off a 3-game skid. Vegas is on the opposite side of that. Yeah. They've won 3 in a row. They sit at the top of the division. The leadership of Jack Eichel, I just can't say enough about that guy's game. His speed, his vision, he just makes everyone around him a better player. I mean, I know Mark Stone, he's touted as an older guy, or maybe has lost a step, but you put him with a guy like Jack Eichel, and all of a sudden, the young amount of talent kind of pushes the established veteran and helps them raise their game, and that's
it's like the old lion teaching the teenage lion how to hunt.
Correct,
kind of thing, right?
exactly, and through all of that, I mean, you go up and down Vegas's lineup, you would be very hard pressed to find someone that doesn't know their role, but also is the best at playing their individual roles. Their top 6 as far as big time goal scorers, again, Jack Eichel, even with Marchessault going over to the Nashville Predators this year, they've had to. Tomas Hertl had a 4-point night the other night. And then obviously, getting guys like William Karlsson back in the lineup, that's going to be huge for them. And then, to talk a little bit about the contract signing there, I know Shea Theodore just got the new deal there, and that's a solidifying piece there. Exactly, and he's been around, he's won some cups, and all that's going to do is that's going to create a contagious environment in that locker room that whoever 20 guys are dressing that night, everyone knows the mission, everyone knows what they need to do, and when you're led by Bruce Cassidy, obviously winning comes with that. And so Vegas is just a reaffirmation of really finding that identity and then running with it.
Cup contender, you think?
Yes, I think Vegas is definitely going to be hard to beat. The other ones that I think are in the mix on that Western Conference is going to be the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars look really sharp. Obviously, the Colorado Avalanche have hit some speed bumps out of the gate, but now that they've kind of got themselves in that go mode, if Landeskog gets back and helps out that lineup, they're going to be really tough to beat. And that's what's going to make it really hard for the Utah Hockey Club to really earn those spots, in those later games to make that playoff push. Is you go down the Western Conference or even the Eastern Conference, there's not a lot of easy games. Even games in the first 2 weeks of the season, they're very important to win. Those 2 points are going to be crucial because you just never know when it comes down to the last point of the season.
Yeah, so absolutely. And that's the thing, like, as new fans, listen to us and just follow hockey, you're going to hear a couple terms like we have to get those big wins early in the season, because then at the end of the season, you're like, oh, man, we're one loss short or 2 losses short. And it's like, this is a big win. It's like, you got to do that early.
Exactly.
Bank those points early, because then at the end of the season, it just becomes crunch time. And, with the playoff race and with the NHL these days, like it's really a daily shuffle when it comes down to that playoff race. But,
exactly.
A lot of great things, especially to talk about with the NHL, with Red Rock ball hockey, but also just the junior hockey and U20, USPHL. It's a newer team here to Southern Utah. Obviously, it goes in relation to the new rink in KJ's Ice Barn. Right. But the Iron County Yeti, they're doing actually really well for their expansion year, inaugural year as a team. But they're sitting right now in their division. They're 4th in the division. They're sitting at 10 points. And just recently, they had a player called up.
Right.
So Merrick Mraz, defenseman, just recently got called up to the Rock Springs Grizzlies in the NCDC. So, Tommy, just talk a little bit about junior hockey and a couple of the divisions, and as a player, what was your experience too as a junior player?
Yeah, well, I mean, believe it or not, I played junior A back in 2008 and 2009, and then rounded out my last year in 2010 in Cincinnati in what was called the Central States Hockey League at the time. to even see the growth of junior hockey and where it's at now, I mean, you're talking multiple leagues across the United States. You're getting a lot of those teams that are closer in location too, so they can play a lot more games in their season without having the daunting travel. I guess this the thing that's really cool to see is I never thought we would have pockets like this as quickly as we did, especially in a Utah market. And obviously the Iron County Yeti, they hit the ground running. And that's the coolest thing that you can do. I think if you embrace something that you believe in and again create that community environment, everything like that, creates more opportunities for everybody. And we're seeing that. I think the major differences of junior A now versus when I was in junior A is there's an avenue for everybody. Back in the day when I was a kid growing up in the Utah youth system, it was they always made the joke, okay, the minute that you're 14, you got to move out of here or you're never going to make it. Well, now there's hockey everywhere. There's so many pockets, whether that's youth programs, junior A programs, college feeder teams. Now you look at even some of the major junior leagues in Canada that have rolled back some of their rules and regulations that now allow NCAA kids to play in the NCAA or
that's huge with major junior.
Exactly.
It is a big movement for players to now be able to play NCAA where, before they were considered, minor professionals.
Correct.
And not able to play or receive a scholarship or eligibility for the NCAA. But, like you mentioned, is just the path that hockey's now created. And, you touched on playing in Canada and certain rules, and
right.
Certain rules were actually written because of me.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So a little dating back, but when I was 15 in the VCHL, I technically was not supposed to be playing in the league.
Right.
Because they had a rule that if you're under 18 and you're not from British Columbia, you were ineligible from the league. Well, they never had anyone that really tested that rule until actually it was Ryan Holeg the year before me, but he had Canadian status. But then I was the true American that came in and ruffled the feathers. But
nice.
But yeah, being from California, not having those options to play high level hockey, this is amazing for the kids and the development, where it starts from ball hockey, and as you mentioned, it can progress into roller hockey, into ice hockey, and then junior with the different levels, and being able to go to college, not at that NCAA level so much, but you can still go to a great university, a great college, play on a club program, and have options.
Exactly.
And that's where, a lot of kids have those. And I'm sure you had some friends and buddies that went that way as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, we had the North American Hockey League that was above us that you could get called up to. Typically, if you played in the NA, which we called it at the time, you're going to get those Division III NCAA offers. You're going to get some of the guys that went to Division I. I played with a lot of kids growing up. A guy like Zach Hale, he played for the Buffalo Bengals, NCAA D3. Ultimately ended up in the Federal League, I believe, too. And I think that this is a very important message, especially for kids listening out there, is we live in a world of information, and it's a lot of information, and it's a lot to digest. And everyone seems like that they've figured out the algorithm, or they've figured out the perfect path to get you to where you need to go, whether that's exercise, dieting, everything. Those are all very important things. But the one thing that I wish that I told myself as a younger hockey player is just go out there and play. Find your programs. Obviously, you don't want to just take any opportunity that's given. You want to vet out the programs, make sure they're representing you well as a player, because that's ultimately what you're marketing. But also like a good environment, a good community. Even to bring this back to the Iron County Yeti, and I'm curious to your thoughts on this, is what kind of environment is the Yeti trying to create in a town? Because you look at Cedar City, it's not the most populated, but those almost seem like they're better environments because the fans love what they have if they don't have a lot. And Iron County Yeti is probably the biggest thing in Cedar City that's not their college.
Exactly. And the answer is entertainment.
Right.
What is a family going to do on a Friday and Saturday night in Cedar City, Enoch, even in St. George?
Right.
What are we going to do for entertainment? And that's where hockey brings the entertainment and different levels of junior hockey, whether it is the highest level. And I talked to a fan. I was at the game on Friday night, but I was talking to fans about the different levels because there's also different arenas and venues and size of entertainment. Because that's the thing is hockey is just another form of entertainment, and the product you have on the ice, enhances the community. But then, what environment do you have for kids and family? And to be honest, it's $12.
Right.
It's a $12 show for 2.5 to 3 hours of entertainment, and it's not just the hockey, the fast pace, but there's intermission games and
exactly.
Just fun events. There's Chuck a Puck, and kids have an opportunity to ride on the Zamboni and do a Zamboni ride, and that's where I'm going to be involved, putting those events together and working with the community to make it that event, to make it that Friday and Saturday night that a family wants to go to.
Absolutely.
Because we have the Friday night lights, with football, and that's amazing. And that's where, as football starts to round out with high school, this is just another great opportunity for the Iron County Yeti to bring that entertainment to Cedar City, to Enoch and St. George, because they have some games coming up. They're on the road November 1st and 2nd.
Okay.
They're going to be in Henderson playing the Henderson Force. But then coming back November 9th and 10th, going to be playing the Colorado Fighting Elk. So
sweet.
We're going to get together and really make it a big event. I think we're going to try to work with the high schools to make it like a high school athletics night.
Great.
And promote the sport as well too. But with that, just promoting the sport, Tommy, we have a whiteboard here. We have a dry erase marker. What I'd like for you to do is just tell our fans here a couple things, because we're about education. We're about giving that information to the fans. So one of the biggest things that I was asked during the Iron County Yeti game, because there was a lot of whistles, and people were wondering, what the whistle's for and why does that happen. So the biggest thing is icing. So one, I'd like for you to kind of draw out a scenario of what an icing would look like and just give a brief description.
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way, I think, to understand icing, and then as we progress into offsides in this video, the thing that I like to kind of refresh my memory with when I'm explaining this to individuals is essentially you have partitions of the ice that are separated by designated lines. These lines are goal lines, blue lines, red lines, and then obviously the blue line repeats and the goal line repeats. And essentially the reason why it repeats is you have offensive zones, you have defensive zones. A lot of what direction you're actually attacking or defending dictates what rules will affect you. Now, for example, let's say I play for the Iron County Yeti, and this is my goalie right here. This is the net that we're protecting, okay? Ultimately, anytime that we are within this zone, we are in our defensive zone. And really what separates this from a defensive zone to an offensive zone is going to be this red line here. Ultimately, in the neutral zone, you're going to have players that if they are carrying the puck, they must cross over their respective red line before they can dump it in past the goal line. Now, the reason for that is, let's say you guys have got caught down in your zone for 2.5 minutes. Your players are tired. Everyone's just trying to get a whistle, everything like that. If you just blatantly shoot this puck down there and you're behind your red line, ultimately they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt in the game. Not only does that cause a face-off to come back all the way in your zone, but now you as a defensive team, you can't change. So those tired guys that are out there, they've got to remain out there. Another easy way to kind of remember that is ultimately, if we have the puck and we're moving this way with the puck, we're just going to cross over this red line. The minute that I am equal or over the red line, I can now shoot that in, and now we can go in our offensive rush patterns, try to go get that puck back. A common term you're going to hear in hockey is dump and chase. When someone says dump and chase, that's essentially what they're doing, is they're gaining the red line, they're throwing it all the way in, and they're going to go try to win a one-on-one puck battle to get the possession back and make an offensive surge to try to score a goal.
Absolutely. So with an icing, like you said, is usually when players are tired or being lazy. Uh, and we'll talk about penalty kill and power play in another episode. But with the icing, um, there's also different rules that go into that too, especially the level of play. Where if you're the team icing the puck, you won't be able to change, which actually defeats the purpose of being tired and kind of throw it away. And so that's where, like, if you're watching a high level game, or even watching the Utah Hockey Club or the Vegas Golden Knights, and you'll see a player that shoots it from one end to the other end, and then the same player stay on the ice, but the other team's allowed to change. That's why. So that's icing. And then talk about the face-off. So once the puck is considered icing, where does that next face-off go and why?
So again, we're here. The Yeti is defending this goal here. If we just had an icing with the puck, that means one of my Yeti players essentially didn't get over the red line before they dumped it in. It went all the way down. Now that ref has blown that play dead, he's going to skate this puck all the way back down for a face-off right here. Ultimately, a lot of teams use this as an advantage because the offending team of the icing call cannot change. Well, that gives us mismatches. And this is kind of the game within the game.
Strategy.
Correct. As you progress and your knowledge progresses as well with it, you're going to start noticing certain things. Like if, let's say I have a very defensively sound fourth line out that was playing against the other fourth line and there's an icing and they can't change. Well, now I'm going to put my first line out, meaning I'm trying to create a mismatch where more of my skilled players are out, or more of the scoring skilled players are out there going against someone that's, a line that's more designed to try to keep the puck out of their net, or again, kind of more the grind line, just creating those mismatches.
Or even some that are just, that looking at the game reports, right. Some players are just weaker defensively.
Correct.
And in any game, any strategy, you want to exploit the weakness.
Right.
And so that's where, to your point, you want to, match or have a mismatch,
right,
to have that advantage, because now you're getting that face-off in the opposing team zone. You have a team that's also tired from that shift before, but then you also have guys that may be more vulnerable defensively.
Yeah, and the best way I could explain it in the form of players that kind of covers, some players that you guys are familiar with. We'll take the Utah Hockey Club in Vegas for good examples here. If Liam O'Brien, good old Spicy Tuna's line, is out there, typically Liam O'Brien's role with the Utah Hockey Club is to be defensively sound, obviously be that sandpaper that you need, be gritty, win pucks on the boards, get the puck out when you can, and also add a little bit of toughness to your lineup. It allows your scorers to kind of skate a little bit more freely and earn a little bit more space, because ultimately, if you do something wrong, Liam O'Brien is going to come let you know that you did something wrong, and it normally comes in the form of some physical activity. Yes. So let's say Liam O'Brien's line is out there and they ice the puck. It comes all the way back, and we're playing Vegas. Well, the next line that you're probably going to see out there is Jack Eichel's line, and they're going to, yep, exactly. They're going to get their top defenseman out there like Pietrangelo or anything like that. Create those mismatches within the game that ultimately create an extra scoring opportunity. And even if that scoring opportunity is missed, you're still willing to roll the dice on those mismatches, because it's sometimes those games are just that close, and that could be the difference of you solidifying the win or ultimately succumbing to the loss. So
absolutely. No, that's awesome. And, with that too, it leads us into the next little rule. The next little point is the offsides, because there's eventually going to be a point in that shift or in later shifts where, let's just say Utah Hockey Club is pinned in their zone. Spicy Tuna just, can't get it out. But finally, they're able to get the puck out. And as you mentioned, gain that red line, dump it in, and then chase. But then they also can change.
Correct.
Now, in that situation, Tommy, the Vegas team, they still have to come out of the zone and regroup before they have to enter.
Right.
And so that's where it leads us into offsides. And
right.
And so explain to us offsides and when that would be called and how to avoid it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like the red line through the center there, creating kind of that separation that determines icing, offsides is going to be dictated by these blue lines. And essentially, these are offensive or defensive zones here. And the easiest way I can explain it, because this is a rule that trips a lot of people up, it is a little bit more in depth to try to explain, where it's almost easier to show when you're on the ice. But I'm going to give it my best Boy Scout effort here. Is essentially whoever is carrying the puck into the zone, the puck must cross this line first, whether that's me shooting it in to dump and change or to dump and chase, or if I'm actually physically carrying it. A good person to watch on zone entries is a person like Jack Eichel. He holds on to the puck so well, he's got to ensure that he has full control of this puck and that that puck actually crosses over the blue line before anyone like a William Karlsson can come in with him and support him. Where offsides would be called is, let's say I've got Mark Stone here in the middle and Jack Eichel's got the puck. Okay. The Utah Hockey Club is the defending team here. And let's say I've got, I know John Marino's hurt right now, but we're gonna send some good vibes and think that he's in the game here. Let's say he steps up on Jack Eichel here, and Mark Stone continues to skate over the blue line and into this zone before the puck is actually entered. That's not allowed. Ultimately, if Jack Eichel was to carry the puck over this line as Mark Stone was in this area here, it would be blown dead, and that's in the form of offside. The relevance to that rule for someone who's like, well, why do they care if they're offside or not? Essentially what that prevents is cherry picking. We're all familiar with the term cherry picking, where someone sends a forward all the way up and all you have to do is launch the puck or the ball all the way down. Exactly. These lines ultimately create obstacles for offensive and defensive teams to even the scales as much as possible and let the skill really take over. So simply put, the puck must go over the blue line before any of your teammates are able to enter, whether that puck is on your teammate's stick or whether that puck has been crossed over the red line and dumped in, allowing legal zone entry.
Yeah, and it's a great explanation, and this is why I have you as my partner here. No, but and this is the awesome thing too, just about technology and the game and how it's transitioned, because now offside has come down to the most like finite moment.
Yeah.
Where it's like football, where there's a camera on the blue line to see if even a toe crossed the plane before the puck, and I know that there's been some games won and some games lost because of an offside call. So have you experienced anything like with a bad offside call?
Oh, I mean, who hasn't at this point? I mean, I've been playing over 25 years. These things happen all the time, and it's a good time to shout out our refs. Yes. that some are volunteers, some are paid. I will tell you this: the speed in which the game is increasing, it's becoming harder and harder for the refs to actually make the call in the moment because the speed is just going so fast. That's why we introduced instant replay. Not only to get the call right, but ultimately to give the refs some benefit of the doubt.
It happens so fast.
Exactly, and for some that are a little bit newer to hockey, you'll see that a ref will make a call on the ice, and sometimes they actually go over to the scoreboard table after the play's been blown dead. You'll see the ref with the headset on. Believe it or not, what they are going to is a central location located in Toronto. And they have all sorts of angles, all sorts of cameras. And believe it or not, there's actually individuals on each team that are constantly watching those plays as they progress to see if they see something that it can actually warrant a challenge from the coach, or it could warrant, if a goal scored, I believe it's like in the last 2 minutes or something like that. It's automatic review.
Yeah.
It just helps solidify that, one, we get the call right, but also it gives the ref on the ice a little bit of relief that no matter what, he's going to call it the way that he sees it. But if it was incorrect, that's okay, because we know the cameras are going to get it right. And that's actually, in my opinion, I think the best environment for refs today. I mean, we all know big games, whether that's football or whatever, where, a ref misses a call and you start to see some things that are pretty unfortunate online or things like that. I can tell you in the hockey community world, and I am a ref myself, without those individuals, we can't play the game. And those are things that we have to remind ourselves of, no matter how competitive you get. And trust me, I have been the person raising my voice at the ref, and I have also been the ref raising my voice at the player. It's a very hard sport to officiate, and we can't continue to grow our recruitment numbers for refs if we don't at least have a little bit of sympathy, a little bit of understanding. Again, I know not everyone's going to be able to act as cool as they want to in the moment, myself included in that, but just to give a little bit of color behind those things as to why we try to get those calls right, but also give a little bit of levity to the ref. Call the game as you see it, and we'll make sure we get the call right if it's too fast for your eye.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you touched on that too, because the game, as we talk about, it moves so fast, and as a player, the players are consistently getting faster, stronger,
Right.
More agile. The mental game is getting faster. So in return, same with the referees. But
Right.
to be honest, the training is not the same. Like the mental training to keep up with the game for an official is different. And so, like you mentioned, is the video production crew, and I was fortunate enough to actually see that from behind the scenes when I was working with Vegas, and it was amazing because not only do they have the Toronto production, but there's trucks out back.
Correct.
So before a game, we had trucks. So let's say it's a 7 o'clock game. There's trucks that are pulling into T-Mobile around noon, 2 o'clock, setting up for audio, setting up for visual, because there's cameras, there's angles all over T-Mobile Arena, around every arena, and they want to make sure that the referees are supported to get the calls right, because the game does move so fast, and they can only see what they can see.
Right, exactly.
And that's where, like you mentioned, is just the education part of it. But the more referees that we have is actually better, because then you have a better understanding of the game.
Correct.
You see a different perspective of it, and also have a different appreciation of it. So
absolutely.
No, this has been awesome, Tommy. The great points, great descriptions too of icing and offside, and the recap of Utah and Vegas, and what a kickoff for our second episode.
Hey, you can't beat it.
This is awesome. So before we close out, do you have any closing statements you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, just a few things. Again, number one, thank you goes to all the fans. Thank you to every hockey fan out there. No matter what, like I said, hockey's for everyone. And whether it's a parent, whether it's a volunteer, whether it's a ref, a board member, anything like that, general managers, just thank you for doing what you're doing, because hockey is probably in one of the most healthiest spots I've ever seen it in my 30 plus year career. And to be a part of something like that is truly special. I think it's so cool to feel the energy around Utah. I've talked to a lot of people as I was growing up that this was all just a pipe dream, that it would never happen. And look at what's been accomplished in 9 months. Everyone's talking about it. I'm seeing Utah Hockey Club merchandise worn all over. And another thing I'm really looking forward to is, so Utah and Vegas play here, I believe, in the next 6 days or 7 days. Yeah. I really want to see how that rivalry unearths, because we're only 6 hours away from each other. And if you know anything about teams and distance, the closer that you are, the more that those games mean. Absolutely. So also, I think it'll be cool to see the dynamics of an established team like Vegas and a championship mentality team like Vegas going against a team like Utah that's finding their identity. And who knows, maybe that's what hardens Utah a little bit, and iron sharpens iron. So no pun intended with the Yeti here. But and then just the last closing thought I would like to leave you with is I want to leave the fans with a quote once a week when we record, just something to get your brain going. I think there's a lot of influential people in this sport, and I want to highlight some of those things with a quote that just kind of keeps the brain turning and really solidify what we're trying to do here. And today's quote is actually from Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr's, if you haven't heard of him yet, it'll be a pretty quick Google before you see all the championship memorabilia that follows along with it. He's a Hall of Famer from the Boston Bruins organization, and even played with the Blackhawks the last year of his career. Not a lot of people know that nugget, but
that's one to keep.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. You'll win some money on that one. But here's the quote: "The biggest thing we get out of it is seeing the kids smile. And hopefully we will also see the lessons we are teaching. Not only the fundamentals of hockey, but also the life values are sinking in. And I think that's something that, at least personally myself, you know, every time that I go to the rink, whether it's Red Rock ball hockey, whether it's seeing kids just get together and play, whether it's dropping anything like that, we're making a difference out there. And to see a kid smile is the greatest reward on planet Earth. We've had a lot of personal experiences with even parents on our teams. There's a lot of kids that come to Red Rock hockey, and their parents are trying to expose them to something a little bit different. Maybe they didn't gravitate towards the player so much, but then all of a sudden we put some goalie gear on them, and all of a sudden their eyes just light up. They come alive. And we've had parents actually come and personally thank us to be like, hey, thanks for helping my kid find their sport. So that's all I got for closing thoughts. What do you got to wrap up?
You did it. So, the quote was amazing, and like you said, if you don't know who Bobby Orr is, just Google ORR.
Yes, it'll come right up.
It'll come up there. No, Tommy, thank you again. Thank you for supporting us, not only through Red Rock Ball Hockey, but continue to watch us through Southern Utah Hockey Report. If you guys do want to become a sponsor, if you want to get your name out there, if you want to continue to support, please contact me, g28hockey@gmail.com. And then we'll have some other links posted with Red Rock Ball Hockey, with the Utah Hockey Club, and just general information. So thank you very much, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Awesome. See y'all at the rink.
Take care.